Hi, I'm Nathan. I go by Peteparker, and every week I do comic book reviews because that's the rule at my house. I have to do comic book reviews if I want to keep buying comic books, so they go hand in hand. So let's get into it. This is PunisherMax number 14, obviously, written by Jason Aaron and drawn by Steve Dillon. And then there's a Hollingsworth thrown in there too. There's actually two stories going on in this at the same time. The Punisher is in prison. I forget why exactly he got put in prison, even though it was only a few issues ago, and I recently read them. But it doesn't really matter, because the two stories that are going on in here, is one, he's in prison with people that want to kill him, and they're making plans to kill him, and he's thinking about his life and how he became the Punisher. Bullseye said something to him right before he came to prison that really shook him to the core, that he has always been the Punisher, and just pretended that he wasn't from the time between the war and his family dying. So he's thinking a lot about that time, and we're getting a lot of awesome backstory of the time when he came back from the war and tried to integrate and be the person he was before he went over there, and do normal jobs and etc. And fight the feeling that he wanted to punish people because it was so ingrained in him. And both stories are awesome. The inside the prison deal is a little bit less interesting because it seems like the same prison story you always hear about connections with the guards, and one really bad prisoner can make his way to somebody else and shank him or kill him and stuff, and so it's kind of expected that all that's happening. There's a little bit of interestingness to how all that gets done and what's going on with those guys in planning. But the really great story is the flashback stories to the young Frank Castle, as he's trying not to be the man who punishes people, but he's trying to be a normal person and be his normal life. But it's just instinct for him, and all this stuff happens around him all the time that makes him, it's prime opportunity for him to punish these people for hurting innocent people and stuff like that. It's very interesting. There's also a little bit of interjection here where Nick Fury apparently comes to visit Frank in the prison, and it's not really apparent whether or not that's an illusion that Frank is having of Nick Fury, or if it actually is Nick Fury showing up in the prison. In the last issue, I think it ended with Nick Fury coming to see Frank and offering him a job in S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, and he wouldn't take it because he didn't want to be that person at the time. And then he worked at a slaughterhouse, and he saw somebody do something bad to somebody else, and he started this whole realization of this whole time is him slowly coming to terms with the fact that he wants to punish people really bad and is really good at it. Now, he only does like one small thing. In the last issue, he let a guy's hand get chewed up by a meat grinder. Did you like my meat grinder effect there? So it wasn't really him doing it. It just happened to be doing it, and he didn't stop it from happening, and he could have. So that was the first one. But in this one, he actually fights back a little bit, or a lot, when he sees an ambush coming, and he sees exactly what's going to happen, and he prevents it because it's just this one time he thinks about all the people that he's let go so far, and it drives him to the point that he kills these two dudes or punishes them pretty severely. Here's a quick page of him punishing, and it was so awesome, that part, or seeing him as a young man in here, that I really want to read the series now of the young Punisher when he's just starting out, when he's making mistakes, when he is like brand new straight into deciding to do this, because it would be very interesting, especially if it's written and done by these same guys. That would be awesome. But that was just an idea I had. And then so he killed these two guys, or hurt these two guys pretty bad, and prevented an ambush from happening, but the ambush was actually happening on a mob boss. So the mob boss is trying to get him in the past to be his enforcer, or force him to be his enforcer. So he's getting job offers left and right from people that want him to do the punishing for them, but he's not doing it. He won't take it. He doesn't want to be a part of that. He's walking away all the time, and every time he lets himself slip, he gets closer to turning into that Punisher character. Now, in this issue, there wasn't very much of the whole home life thing. I think that was pretty heavily looked at in the last one. I'd like to see that continue a little bit, how that's working with his family. I imagine that ultimately the story arc for this series, whether or not it's the prison story arc or just the flashback story arc, is going to end and tell us exactly what was happening the day that his family got murdered, and I'm really looking forward to that. If you didn't watch my other reviews on this PunisherMax series, basically I give it very high marks. It's really well done. There's only 14 issues. At this point, you can, if there's a trade out, I don't know. You can find the issues, you can find the trade, and catch up pretty quickly, and it's well worth every dollar. This is one of the series that I will buy probably until it finishes, or until the creative team totally changes, because it is wonderful. If you like the Punisher, if you like Punisher Maximum series where there's blood and guts and all that stuff, violence in general, then you will love this series. It's awesome. You should be reading it if you're not. So I'm actually going to give this book a 5 out of 5. There are some slow moments talking about what's going to happen in the prison kind of thing. There are some slow introspective things, but all of those things give it a specific flavor to the whole book, and they kind of bring you back out of the action-y part of the story and let you kind of digest things as you move forward. So it's very well paced, it's very well written, and while I didn't like Steve Dillon's art at first, every time I start a story with him, I end up liking it eventually. It grows on you as you read it, and it totally fits this situation now, or it's totally grown on me completely. But there you go. PunisherMax number 14. It's a great series. You should be reading all 14 issues. It's awesome. I wish it came out every day, because I'd read it every day. So 5 out of 5. You can check out my other reviews on YouTube under Spidey207 and under Peteparker on the Marvel and DC databases, or Comic Vine, or iFanboy. So there you go. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.